So this morning I want to read from the book of First Peter 4 through 5, which says, Of course your former friends are surprised when you no longer plunge into the flood of wild and destructive things they do. So they slander you. But remember that they will have to face God, who stands ready to judge everyone, both the living and the dead. And today I'm grateful for life. I'm grateful for my wife and my children and um, you guys and just the opportunity to be here. Um, this verse is very much self-explanatory. Um, it's strange that like I say, it's the living word when, like, I've read the Bible so many times, and as every time I read it, I always just stumble on these sort of hidden gems. And what I actually do is cause I use the Bible app, so I could just hold my finger down on a particular verse, and I sort of bookmark it and save it whenever it's something that I want to revert back to. But this particular verse, um, it hit home for me because I don't have this problem anymore. But I can honestly say when I first gave my life to Christ, um, this was something that was very challenging for me, being that I had so many worldly friends, and because I was such a destructive person, um, people actually thought that I was joking around. And it's so funny because let me just I like to tell you all some stories, right? So a friend of mine, um, me and my wife and my son had ran into him at brunch on Sunday after church, right? But I don't think he's going to church, but again, it's not me to judge. Um, but when we were leaving brunch, um, he made a remark to me in front of my wife, and he said, "Oh, you ain't tired of playing Christian?" Um, and I turned around to him and I said, that's the one thing I ain't playing with. Like I don't play games with my faith, you know. And he just sort of smirked and walked off, But and my wife had to turn to me, obviously, that aroused her. She's like, "Well, what does he mean by that playing Christian?" Um, and I just told her, I was like, when people only had access to the old you, and the old you is the life that they are so comfortable with that because it's the life that they relate to, they naturally assume that when you're living a new life that they don't seem to have access to, that you're pretending to be something that you're not, right? But it's not their decision to decide who you are in the new you or whether or not you're the old you. Because at the end of the day, it's exactly like the author says here. The author says, but remember that they will have to face God, who stands ready to judge everyone, both the living and the dead. At the end of the day, you know, our job, our mantle which God has placed on us is to love God and love each other. In the process of us loving each other, we try to spread the good news to people. We try to preach the word to them and to get God's word out to them because out of love, we want to spend eternity with them. And we know that only death and destruction is waiting for them if they don't give their life to the Christ. And because we feel this way towards them, this is where like this is where us spreading the word and just sort of wanting more for them comes in. But the reality is you can't really want more for someone than they want for themselves, and you can't beat a dead horse. Like there's some people out there that like no matter what you do and how much you try to preach to them and how much you try to convince them about the goodness of God, like they just ain't hearing it. And you know what I've learned to do in these situations, y'all? What I've learned to do is not to ignore them, but I ignore them in the flesh. And what I do is I take the battle for their soul to a spiritual level. So what I would do is when I would see them, and I don't have to put my hands on you, and because people they ain't comfortable with that all the time. But when I do see them, most times, I just say a little prayer to God. It don't be long, it don't be much, but it's a prayer that says from God to me, so God can see my heart that I actually want what's best for them. And I say, God, if it's in your will to change their heart, please change their heart and let them come to you, Lord. And you will see sometimes, and listen to me, be careful with those kind of prayers. I'm telling you, because sometimes some things just happen to people, and I'm not saying it in a bad way, but sometimes God does things to bring people closer to Him where it may make us feel guilty for it, you know? Because sometimes, in order for you to be able to see the glory and the goodness of God, God has to take you through some things to make you come out of it, to realize that only Him could have gotten you out of it. And I know because I am speaking from experience, you know. I gone through hell to get to heaven where I am right now. But the reality is that I still had to go through hell. I still had to take the journey. The thing is I didn't stop in hell. I didn't live in hell. Where I was before I met Christ was hell. That's where I was. But I was only passing through, you know? So anyway, again, the last thing I gotta say is that don't forget this thing what the author said, and this is one of the most powerful things in this. He says, your former friends are surprised when you no longer plunge into the flood of wild and destructive things that they do. The key word, and this is the word that I want y'all to walk away from today with, is former friends. Those persons who have a problem with you being Christian, those friends who have a problem worshiping in you, those former friends who don't understand your assignment, leave them right where former is in the past. Leave them there. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity to speak to you guys this morning. I'm Gary, and I love each and every one of you, and I pray that you have a blessed day. I relinquish my mic.